Are you a high-income professional who's challenged by the question, am I earning enough? Hey, this is Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. How do you estimate your target income so that you know not only that you're earning enough, but that you're on track for that target to cover debt, emergency fund, retirement, and your day-to-day living expenses? See, there's a certain lifestyle that you've been accustomed to, and in the near term, how do you make sure that that lifestyle is secured from natural disaster, from layoffs, changes in the marketplace, from unforeseen instances? How do you make sure that's secure? And how do you make sure you're earning enough now that you know with even inflation that you continue to stay ahead of the curve and continue to earn a high income? See, there's such a thing as people who work so many hours and have so little to show for it, yet they make a high income that others are envious of. Others, for example, petition the government to take more of your money, even though with your six-figure income, you're still living paycheck to paycheck. You wonder where the money went. What has happened to it? You also may ask for too little money when it comes to promotions and undersell yourself. There's a lot of cases, and you can see the studies, where women undersell their value in the marketplace. But the same thing happens with men as well. The same thing happens when you've been passed over for a raise or a promotion year after year, and then you realize, doing a simple calculation of inflation, that you make less money now than you did when you started with the company 5 years ago. There's also the challenge of the $13.5 trillion in consumer debt. Now, that includes $1.44 trillion in student loans, but Americans are taking on more debt than ever before. And without a system for managing it, a high-income professional can find themselves a slave just like anybody else. And what do I mean by that? Well, they're a slave in the sense that every day they must work. They can't take time off to care for their children or to go to children's events. They're shackled to the business, sending emails at 2 a.m. in the morning. And you've seen these examples. Someone where work is everything. And work wants it that way. They want you loyal. They want you afraid to look for another position. They want you in a place where they can get maximum value for minimum cost. And that's what the way business is. But as an employee, you need to get maximum income for the minimum amount of input. It's a balancing cycle in the overall economy. But when the economy goes south, how do you know that you're in a position that you can maintain the lifestyle that you enjoy, the lifestyle that your family's been accustomed to, and do so indefinitely? Now, the indefinite part is very important because when we talk about retirement, everything online that you see about retirement is about some imaginary point in time in the future. And in fact, I would argue that many retirement calculators are actually wrong. They don't properly account for, and they accept the fact that most people cannot retire. Be real careful with debt calculators. Be real careful with retirement calculators, because they're often sponsored by the organizations that want to manage your money. They want to help you get out of a problem, and they do so by charging you fees. And those fees very often eat away at your savings and earnings power. Another position that high-income professionals are in, and this is the aim of Sustainable Wealth Secrets, is that their wealth is eaten away through taxes, through unexpected costs, and other day-to-day activities that just burn the money away. And so how do you know if you're earning the right amount of money? I'm going to share with you 3 simple steps to get you started. But estimating your target income is a system that we teach that shows you how to model out exactly how much do you need to earn every year. In fact, if you get in a situation like I've been in the past, you could work 6 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year, or a whole 12 months if you desire, and earn the money that you need, but earn it faster. So here's the example that we've had. Many times I've earned 2 or 3 years worth of income in 1 year. Now, that doesn't mean I take the time off and just do nothing for a year, but it might mean that I choose to do some activities that I would not do otherwise, activities that might have been more enjoyable, activities that might have been a greater risk. If you think about it this way, let's say you need to earn $156,000 a year. You can choose to take 12 months to earn the money, or you can take 6 months to earn the money. If you need to make $156,000 a year, and at the 6-month mark you've reached your number, and you've done the right things about debt reduction, you've got your emergency fund, you've got your retirement account, you've even got a reserve fund for your day-to-day expenses, The rest of your year, you have freedom. Now, I will tell you there's a tax freedom day already, and that's a sad truth, is that it takes part of the year where you're working just for the government to cover the taxes. Well, then if you work a part of the year to cover your expenses, what part of the year are you working to build your wealth? And that's really what estimating your target income is about. Now, the three steps that we're going to cover right now. Start first with an accurate picture of your financial position. That means not only estimating your current income, but estimating your target income with whatever tools that you have. You don't need any special tools. Just kind of come up with an idea. Is it $100,000 a year? Is it $150,000 a year? Is it $250,000 a year? You also want a complete profit and loss statement. Now, I know a lot of people who are managing their money with Mint or Personal Capital, or they're using spreadsheets. I think that as a high income professional, you need a bookkeeper and you need a real accounting system like a QuickBooks Online or a Xero, something that's going to show you your profit and loss. And if you are really sophisticated with this, for example, you have real estate properties, or you have investment accounts, or you have other types of like a business, then you need to have a real profit and loss statement broken down by project so that you know where you're focusing your time produces income and value and where spending your time does not. You also want to have a clear picture of your expenses. Now, to have an accurate picture, you need to challenge each of these things and document them. Now, here's some good news. You might be saying, well, I'm not a bookkeeper, I'm not an accountant, I don't really like to count the money. Well, listen, if you do this and have an accurate picture, then when it comes tax time, it's so much easier, faster, cheaper. In fact, you may even go to a quarterly estimated tax, and then at the end of the year, there are never any surprises. Number 2 is you're going to live below your means. You're going to live on 30% of your yearly gross earnings. Now, there's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon that goes into details and talks about that. If you're a private client, I make sure you have a copy of this and have read it because the book Richest Man in Babylon really sets up the foundation in a hearable way. And in fact, it's easy for children to read. It's a great book to read to your kid. It's written in parable format. But the wealthy really understand that the amount of money they earn is very often already accounted for before they get to touch it. So what they'll do is they'll peel off 10% off the top for their wealth account. They'll peel off 10% off the top for a charitable giving account. And then they're going to pull off like 30% off for their necessary expenses. But listen, you're now saying, well, that's 50% of my gross earnings. Well, you also need to understand that 25 to 30% of your gross earnings is already accounted for in the U.S. government, or whatever government you live in. They're expecting that for taxes because ultimately you work for the government. You work for the services that they are providing to other people and the infrastructure that makes possible you getting back and forth to work or serving customers. But ultimately, if you add 25% to that, that's now 75% of your gross check is already accounted for, is already taken away. And now what does that leave you? It leaves you 25%. Now that 25%'s got to take care of debt. It's got to take care of an emergency fund. It's got to take care of your retirement. And very often it is not enough unless you know what your estimated target income is. So living below your means is something you can do right now. You can say, hey, look, I make $100,000 a year. I'm going to live off $30,000 a year for my net expenses. You can back out your mortgage. You can back out all your expenses. If you're within that number, then you can easily bank the majority of your paycheck. Now, I've been in situations, and many of my clients have been in situations where they direct deposit up to 50% of their paycheck into an account they never touch. Now, think about it this way. If you're already struggling, even though you make a high income, even though you make an income that other people will be jealous of, those people don't understand that you've had student loans, you've had an investment of resources and time, you maybe had to move across the country and lost equity in your home just so you could take a new position. Most people don't understand that. Now, I understand it because I work with high-income professionals and we build their wealth through proven techniques that not only take care of your current self, but take care of your future self. If you can just live off of 30% of your gross, you will adjust your position in life. Now, that could mean changing your lifestyle a little bit. But you'll be in a position in life where the remaining funds can be stacked. Now, this is a very valuable thing. I'm going to cover number 3, and then we're going to go back to the stacking of money. Number 3 is your enough is enough number. This is your safe harbor position. This is the position in present value that if you have it in the bank, then your retirement is guaranteed, that your debt is zero, or your debt is working for you. It's the guaranteed position where you'll always be able to provide for that 30%. If you're living below your means at 30% of your gross and you set aside the principal necessary to fund your 30% gross, what do you think life's going to be like? Well, it would be easier to stack money. So you have your active income, you have your passive income. You could take on more and more passive income because it doesn't require time, but your active income is limited. With your estimated target income, you're going to be able to slice and dice and know exactly where the money is coming from, which is extremely valuable because now you can shuffle out these reserve funds, which start earning money for you. So basically, you'll have this stacking of function. You have your day job that's generating income and goes into the bank. Some of that income feeds a passive income source, such as an investment. It could be an investment in the stock market. It could be investment in real estate. It could be investment of a small business of your own. It could be an investment of building intellectual property that pays you royalties, which then becomes another stream of income. And then as the income increases, it goes back through your system for debt reduction and debt management, emergency funds, retirement account savings, even your day-to-day expenses. But what's most exciting about this is you'll get to a point where the majority of your passive income is not necessary. Then you'll get to the point of the majority of your active income is not necessary. Now, don't get me wrong. You'll earn it, and I encourage you to earn as much as the market will allow, but you won't have to spend it. You won't have to use it to pay taxes. You won't have to use it to pay for debt. You won't have to use it to invest in education. You won't have to use it to set aside for retirement. You won't have to use it for anything, yet you'll have it available to you fast and easy to go ahead and put towards short-term investments, to things that you really desire to do. See, the majority of people don't like their day job when they work for somebody else. The majority of employees are unhappy with their job and even disconnected. Pew Research studies show that 42% of employees are actively disconnected with their job. They're frustrated. They hate it. They don't want to be there. 65% would prefer working somewhere else, but ultimately, that's a bad situation if you're in that role. But it's often because people don't have an accurate picture of their finances, they don't live below their means, and they don't know their enough is enough number. Because once you reach your enough is enough number, then you can do some of the things that you've desired, but you can do them without fear. You can do them with confidence. You can do them in a way that is exciting, and other people they're still going to be jealous. You have to admit. The majority of the population is not earning more than $100,000 a year. Yet earning more than $100,000 a year is a requirement in many geographic regions. In fact, in the 1980s, if you earned $100,000 a year, you could easily build wealth. Well, that number today is $250,000. So if you're making only $100,000 a year, you're way far behind the 8 ball. And what I'd rather someone do is with these 3 steps, and you may think these 3 steps are going to cause suffering and frustration. I'd rather see somebody take 3 to 5 years to stack the money aside now and then have that money work for you over the next 5, 10, 20, or 30 years. I'd like to see you have a clear plan that you know exactly how much you need to earn this year. So if you have the opportunity to earn this in 6 months, great. You can spend the rest of the year exploring new opportunities that level you up and take you to the next level. Or you can, if it takes you a whole year to earn this, you can look at opportunities how to earn the money faster. You can also see that if the number is ridiculous, it's like 4 or 5 times what you're actually earning, then you can clearly, with good mental prowess, go in there and remove those things that are not necessary. Now, I know a lot of husbands and wives will fight about the money, and a lot of relationships are tedious about this, and some people have bad spending habits. But if you are a serious producer, meaning someone who's not just sitting around consuming, someone who wants to produce wealth, someone who wants to have the confidence to know they can look their spouse right in the eyes and say, look, we're taken care of. The insurance is right. the funding is right. Even if the economy crashes, we can do pretty much whatever the hell we want. The country club membership is paid for years to come, and we don't have to worry about assessments because we have built wealth. And yes, it may take a few years. And we share a number of case studies in the Sustainable Wealth Secrets newsletter. But I've met individuals who lived like they were poor for 10 years. They drove old cars. They lived in tiny apartments for 10 years. And then 10 years after that, they were in a position where they could do anything the hell they wanted. So they invested in themselves for 10 years. Then they graduated from the investment in themselves and had exactly what they needed as far as resource accounts and emergency funds and wealth accounts and charitable giving accounts. And then they, increased their lifestyle just a little bit to see how things worked, how they felt with that. And then at the end of that period, 20 years after they started, they pretty much just retired. They did whatever they wanted. Worked exciting new positions because they had enough is enough number. They had their number that in present value that no matter what happened, their retirement is guaranteed. They have secured for themselves, and sometimes this is called personal banking. This is called self-banking. This is called self-insuring. But they insured for themselves that retirement was not going to be a question. That unlike the majority of Americans, they would have the same or better lifestyle in retirement as they have today. This allowed them to work with startup companies. This allowed them to start their own companies. This allowed them to test markets and do things and even turn down opportunities that weren't ideal for their family. Now, again, we cover those case studies in the Sustainable Wealth Secrets newsletter. The key to what we're talking about today is the 3 simple steps to get you started understanding your wealth, building your wealth. And it's an accurate picture, which includes estimated target income, which is a factor of your tax rate, the amount of money you need for debt reduction, the amount of money you need for an emergency plan, the amount of money you need for a retirement account, and the amount of money you need to cover your day-to-day expenses, not necessarily in that order. It includes living below your means. If you just want to get started today, try to live on less than 30% of your gross income. Stock away everything else because it's already accounted for very often with taxes and retirement and other things. And then finally, number 3, know your enough is enough number, and that is your present value of your future retirement needs so that you have the same or better lifestyle in the future. Now, how we do this is part of what we do in the coaching program. The coaching program, we look at your actual financials and sit down with your CPA. Now, if you don't have a CPA, you need to get one right away. You don't need to wait for me to get one. You get a CPA because we sit down and look at your financials and we do financial projections. We look at your day-to-day plan. We look at how are you managing debt? What are you doing from a charitable perspective to reduce your taxes and to also improve your standing in a community? And how do you become that producer, that leader that gets the results that they desire so that they have 1 or 2 active income streams, but that is a very small percentage of the overall income, and that many of those income streams are not guaranteed. Nothing in life is guaranteed, but are there secured in the passive growth that can be supported mathematically so that you can have an accountant look at it. You can have a CPA look at it. You can have your lawyer look at it. They're going to understand how everything works, and then they can prove you right. This is that accurate picture. They can prove you right by running the numbers using financial models, using finance. Now, this is far beyond what everybody else is doing. If you aren't at least making 6 figures comfortably, then this is definitely not for you because it is disappointing when you realize that most families can't live on $100,000 a year. The average household income in the state of Virginia is $72,000 a year. That's the average. That's the middle of the road. If you're only making $100,000 a year, you're not really rich. You're not even close to where you need to be. And in order to drive forward and overcome the increased taxes that are coming, you may need to make $250,000 a year, $300,000 a year, $400,000 a year, just to have a pauper lifestyle. Now, folks, I don't want to scare you, but I want you to understand that if you don't have an accurate picture of your earnings, if you're not actively living below your means, and if you don't know what enough is enough, then you are going to suffer. And you've probably lost a small fortune already. If you want to change that, then visit us at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. If we're accepting private clients and coaching members, then you'll see those details. If not, we have a number of resources for high-income professionals so they can start building wealth, so they can start driving forward, and you can move forward with confidence that you're earning the right amount for your desires, for your situation. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets, and we've been talking about estimating your target income and the 3 factors that are necessary to get the most accurate and clear picture so that you can drive forward with confidence. If you have immediate needs around debt reduction or debt management, about building up reserve funds or getting the most from your retirement, visit us at www.sustainablewealthsecrets, and we have a number of resources available there. Thanks for listening.